I might add. What I desired to provide when I began this book was more of a quick, daily reminder of the impact of minimalism. We moms are busy, so this is a book of inspirational guidance that you can dwell on daily. Minimalism is more of a way of life than a place one arrives at, after all. We need little reminders to keep that in perspective and focus on what's important to us. I was quite the opposite of a minimalist in my late teens and early 20s. I was someone that needed a new outfit, or at least a new top, each time I attended church. I hated wearing the same combination of clothing more than once every couple of months. I wanted the newest, shiniest things, and every time I'd set foot into the mall or a Target, where I did most of my shopping at the time, I felt an almost compulsive pull toward the display laid before me. I was living paycheck to paycheck due to my spending habits. But wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to the first time I realized I could buy without really thinking about the repercussions. My desire to consume started long before I became an adult, but I remember the day when it was no longer up to my parents to control my spending. I held the power. It began on my 18th birthday. I headed to our local mall to get a new outfit for my celebratory dinner. As I roamed around Macy's with an armful of clothing, a sales associate stopped and asked if she could get a fitting room started for me. As we talked, I casually mentioned that it was my 18th birthday, and she responded by asking if I had any interest in opening up a credit card. Who, me? At the time, I was just looking forward to college. I hadn't thought about the other opportunities that this milestone birthday would bring. But people were actually interested in loaning me money? Sign me up. After trying on a couple of dresses and tops, I headed to the checkout area where I was met again by the sales associate. As she rang up my items, I showed her my driver's license and delivered my social security number, and was offered a $200 credit limit. Looking back, I laugh at how naive I was to be thrilled by access to $200, but at the time, it was like I'd hit the lotto. My original plan was to only purchase one top or dress for my birthday dinner, but I could now purchase all of the items I had taken into the dressing room. Charge it. A few weeks later, I received my $200 Macy's bill with a little box at the top that said my minimum payment was only about $12. I was in disbelief. I walked out of the store with a bag full of new clothes and only had to pay $12 for them that month. You can obviously see the failed thought process of my plan. If I were to just pay the minimum payment, I'd only be whittling away at interest charges, something I didn't realize at the time of opening the credit card. I do think there is a problem with the lack of real-life economics education in schools, but that's an argument for another day. In my naive teenage mind, I could just pay small amounts until I was back to zero, then charge the card right back up again. This behavior continued on for the next couple of years until I was 20 years old and buried under $6,000 worth of credit card debt. The more I filled up my closet, the happier I became, or so I thought. As you might have experienced, one of the problems with compulsive spending is that the high of the purchase is fleeting. It's not long until you find yourself at the store on the hunt for the next item to fill your space. After a series of conversations, extra hours of work, and help from my parents, I was fortunate enough to be released from my debts. I recognize that this privilege isn't available to everyone. I did have help. I won't pretend that I did it on my own. That said, it was around this point that I realized I could no longer continue living paycheck to paycheck. I wasn't exactly sure how I'd break free of the hold that spending had over me. I knew I wanted to overcome the pull, but how would I actually get there? Flash forward 3 years later to a moment that transformed my life. Gone were the days of living above my means. I was married and had someone else helping me navigate finances and budgeting. I was still in college, and my husband had just begun his second